Let's bring in Jason Miller, former Trump campaign senior advisor, and Kevin Walling, former Biden 2020 campaign surrogate and partner at HG Creative. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me. Don't you miss the campaign trail?
We're heading into it. Two weeks out, I guess,
Also,
right?
not a boring mid-cycle
Exactly.
election whatsoever. It feels like, Kevin, every single day there is some new Democrat that has a problem. It's a problem for the party. It becomes a national news story. And now we got this guy in Maine running for Senate who said some pretty nasty things about cops, about white people in America. So what's going on here?
Certainly not helpful. My advice to anyone running, Republican or Democrat, is check what you've tweeted out in the past, even especially if it's just been in the last couple of years. Listen, we know threats of political violence have more than doubled in the last 5 years directed towards elected officials. Anyone running should set that example for the American people. We know how dangerous rhetoric in the hands of someone who is unstable can do real harm to real Americans. I wrote an op-ed after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, calling to tone down that rhetoric, that be a lesson for all of us. And we need to call it out on our side. I joined, Brett Baier the day of those Jay Jones text messages and called for him to come out of that race, to drop out. Democrats have a responsibility to call it out on our side. We can't just say, this Democrat is, this Democrat certainly is.
Jason, I want to ask you about this because it's not just the politicians, it's trickling down to people. You had this dad at a football game, was supposed to be there watching his son at the SMU game, was supposed to be watching his son play on the field. Instead, he's yelling at the gubernatorial candidate for the Republican Party in Virginia. He says, go back to Haiti. This is at Winsome Earl Sears. She's not from Haiti, by the way. Wasn't this supposed to be the party of good vibes and positivity and inclusion and all of that? What's going on here?
Well, I think the reality is that Democrats have lost their way as a party and they don't know who they are, what they actually stand for. And the problem is that it's not just the rhetoric. The problem is it's manifesting itself with the way people act. We've seen these horrific acts of violence, whether it be what happened with Charlie Kirk's assassination or the attempted assassinations, both of them against President Trump. It's got to stop. And the fact that Democrat leaders have not called out the Jay Jones or even the Zohran Mamdani posing with a radical cleric who is the unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. I mean, these are some really outliers that I think the Democratic Party has to stand up and say something about, because if they don't, then people go out and take it to that next level. And it's really becoming a problem.
By the way, that was at JMU here in Virginia, not SMU. I want to read this memo that the DNC chair sent out to Democrats. It was very optimistic considering what we're watching here at some of these races. He said, Democrats are overperforming in key elections in warning sign for the GOP. Republicans know they're in trouble. That's why they're releasing faulty polls in contradiction with independent polling, lying about their opponents, and not campaigning with Donald Trump. Democrats, on the other hand, are in a strong position. Generic balloting for the 2026 midterms consistently shows Democrats ahead of their Republican counterparts. However, if you look at what's happening in Jersey, if we can pull this poll up, Mikey Sherrill is in a very tight race with Jack Ciattarelli right now. And it's interesting what's happening here because you can tell that Ken Martin is worried about this particular race.
Well, certainly Democrats worry all the time until those ballots are counted. But I will point out, and what Ken says, Chairman Martin says in that piece, is in the last 40 special elections, Democrats have either won or overperformed in 39 of those elections. So we are incredibly hopeful, both in Virginia. We're going to flip the governor's mansion from Glenn Youngkin to Abigail Spanberger, and of course hold on to that governor's mansion in Trenton, New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill. Our own Fox polling had her up even higher at 8 points. And again, let's also remember,
these are supposed to be landslide victories for Democrats.
Not necessarily landslides. Midterms? You know, her predecessor, the current governor of New Jersey, only won over Jack Ciattarelli by 3 points last cycle. So let's keep everything in perspective. It's gotten tighter. Certainly, Donald Trump is cutting in the margins of New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. It's almost kind of going to become more of a bellwether state. But I'm confident that Mikey Sherrill will win on Election Day, and so will Abigail Spanberger.
Jason, I got to ask you about that because you were on the trail with the president. I was there, too, in New Jersey as he was bringing out voters that had never voted for a Republican before. He made a lot of inroads with the Hispanic vote there in Democratic districts. Is that going to play for Ciattarelli?
Absolutely. And Ciattarelli's a good candidate. I think he's closing very strong with this race. So New Jersey, it will come down to the wire. I think in Virginia, I know who's definitely not going to win. That would be Jay Jones, a Democrat candidate for Attorney General, who, by the way, has completely disqualified himself. He wouldn't even pass a background check to have that position if he was going into law enforcement. Whether or not that will ultimately help Republicans win at the very top of the ticket for the gubernatorial side, we'll see how that comes together. But the one thing I will say is that keep in mind, as we round the corner into the midterms, voters still trust President Trump on the economy and to secure the border. As that starts to move back around, I feel good about the Republicans next year.
It's so interesting. I'm also so wildly fascinated by this New York mayoral race because it is getting close now. And people are saying that even if Curtis Lewa, the Republican candidate, even if he drops out, it's still going to be a very, very tight race.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.